imagine. Imagine acting class. See, what you need to understand about is anyone, any person can act, but how many take the time to actually learn how to use the process of daily life to be able to understand how they can apply it into acting, and not just acting because you want to become famous, but acting because in everyday life you need to act. Think about it at your job. How many people put in an act, and how many are good at it? Well, today's guest is going to talk about acting, not only for film, but in real life. Welcome, Ann, to the program.
Hi, John.
Ann, it's a pleasure to have you on the program, and I wanted to discuss a little bit about your class because it's kind of unique in that way, and perhaps tell us a little bit of your history. How did you get starting in acting and then teaching acting class?
Well, first I have to tell your audience that you're in the class,
right,
and you're wonderful.
Well, thank you.
And they'll get to see some of your work here today.
Okay.
How did I get started? You know, I don't know, we don't have a 5-hour show, but you know, certainly I'm sure if you go back to most of us who love this art, it started when we were kids. So I was producing shows when I was 4 and 5, you know, in my backyard, and charging money and, you know, doing all that.
Is cool.
And just loved it, but didn't realize until later when I started to study acting myself. Yeah, I was into it really young. And then I was really lucky in that I got to study with Stella Adler and Uta Hagen, who are two of the greatest, you know, master teachers. Unfortunately, they're gone now. But I had an amazing experience studying with them.
Well, and then what led you into the teaching of acting classes itself?
I started 17 years ago. I was running a theater and directing, and which is a wonderful extension to being a coach, because it is very close to directing.
Right.
And I was finding myself, you know, coaching more, and then I was asked by, at that time, the Hermosa Playhouse to start acting classes. And I just fell into it really naturally, and I love it. It's a joy. It doesn't feel like a job. I love all my students. You know?
Wow.
But it really is a joy for me.
And you know, that comes across in the class. Like I was going to pay you that compliment too, is that your class, and I think the students would attest, feels very comfortable. People don't feel like they're being superly critical. It feels more like positive criticism, you know, not the harsh thing you see. So it's a very positive environment. Now, the other thing I want to note there that I noticed in the class is you have people from a wide range of backgrounds, ages, different occupations, and many of them not necessarily because they want to become the next Tom Cruise, but just because, like we talked about, it may help them in their daily life, such as the lawyers in your class. And maybe you want to talk about a little bit of that input as to your class and the variety you have.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. We do have, I think at one point I had from 14 to 85.
Okay.
So I really just welcome a wide variety of ages and backgrounds. When I first started,
that gives me hope.
Yeah, listen, there's a lot of roles I can't wait to do.
Okay.
We have an inspiration with Shannon Wells being in the class.
Oh, that's right.
Who's 85 and proud to say it. And I think, oh,
she's
thank
awesome.
goodness I have a long life, you know, of acting, because she's such an inspiration.
So remember, we have someone in the class, just want to reiterate this to the audience, that's 85 years old,
right,
85 years young, and
that's right,
she's acting strong.
Right, and she's memorizing things a lot easier than the people that are 40 years younger than her.
Exactly.
So,
I know.
So there is hope. But what I was going to say, when I first started, I used to divide the classes into a beginning, advanced, intermediate, because that's pretty much what people usually do.
Right.
And as the classes evolved, I just found that it's a wonderful compliment to have the different levels. Sometimes the people who have been doing it for a long time, you know, maybe some of their bag of tricks are a little rusty, and what we all want to get to is have the acting be pure and organic and fresh and new. We don't want it to look like acting. So someone will walk in, never acting before, and blow us all away because they're just so pure, you know. So I think it is a nice combination, and vice versa. They can really learn from the more experienced actor as well.
Exactly, and I notice that in your class. I see people that have just done acting for the first time, and they're just marvelous.
Yeah.
And part of it is their drive, and part of it is the way that you teach. I think that you encourage people that they're all success, and you can see that carry over. And you see the people that have been there for a long time, and they're very helpful to the new students, just giving them pointers and tips as to how to do things and how to make it more effective. So it is great, you know.
I do agree. It is unusual in a sense, the environment that is there. It's very safe.
Right.
And there are other classes where people go where they don't have that support system. Like you said, there's almost a networking, people kind of like,
Right.
you know, actually one of our actors said, I'm going to give you my agent's number because you're so talented. And that doesn't really happen so much in town.
I was going to say, it's too competitive usually, huh?
Because it's competitive, but it is. It's a very safe environment, very supportive and inspiring. You know, I leave as the coach. I leave inspired. You know,
Right.
I have so much energy after class, even though sometimes we'll run really late. You know, I'm like, oh, that was great, that scene. You know, you even notice we're laughing really hard,
Oh, yeah.
and sometimes we're crying, and
Right.
you know, there's just, I feel like I'm going to a really great play and production every time I go to class and watch the scenes. So.
Yeah, and people tend to seem like they're having fun with it, and that's
Right.
what seems to be a good clue to what it is all about. Now, in addition to that, your acting class, I guess what I'm understanding is you have certain techniques too, like warm-ups. I saw when we first started, there's a number of things you do to try to get people to get out of their shell, to try different types of maybe personas that they're not used to, which is, I thought, was very original. Maybe you want to tell us just a few of the things that you do.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't named my technique yet,
Right.
because my feeling is you do what works for you.
And technique.
Well, mine is a combination of all the
Right,
techniques, because
right.
I don't think you can have, and I've said this before, you know, you can't, not every actor can respond to one method. You
That
know,
makes
there aren't
sense.
cookie cutter actors, and you can't do that. But what's wonderful about all the methods that are out there is you might use a little bit of this one for this character, or a little bit of this for this emotion. So it's very individualized, the coaching,
like it,
because
yeah.
it depends on what is going to speak to you, you know, and what's going to hook you to, you know, to be a better actor. And it may not be the same for everyone.
Exactly. Well, I remember you did warm-up phases. We had to pretend that we're either angry or in a certain situation, or pretend the whole scene, imagine all the things leading up to it and what led up after that.
Right.
So it gives that input of how much it goes into acting that most people, when they watch a film or see a play, don't realize all those thoughts that are going into what that person's going to say or do.
Right. Yeah, if you're watching, I mean, an audience is very smart, and if they're
Right.
watching a movie or a stage play or a television show, and they're lost in it,
Right.
and it's seamless, then that is good acting. When they notice the acting, then it's like, oh, yeah, something didn't ring true, you know.
Right, like
so yeah,
it
that's where we want to get to. It's just that, you know, that
Often-
seamless, you know, clear, developed character.
Like it's authentic.
Yeah.
Now,
exactly.
I think there's three major ones that I just want to mention, because I know you use all three of them. I don't know how to pronounce them right. Is it Stanislavski?
Stanislavski, yeah.
And what's the other two? There's,
Well, there's the method.
okay. and
There's so many. There's actually
I'm just curious.
probably hundreds. And that goes, you know, we can have a whole other show on the history of that, but you
Right.
know, and the British have a whole different take in some senses than the sensibility of the
They're
American.
funny sometimes. Mr. Bean is great. No, I mean,
Yeah, but I mean, their techniques are different, and
Right.
I love a lot of the you know, the techniques from England.
Yeah, they're very eccentric, some of them.
So yeah, I think all of them should be incorporated at one time or another in the development of your scene or monologue. Yeah.
Now, what I wanted to do right now is kind of, we're going to close this off, this segment of the interview, and I appreciate Ann. So anybody in the
Sure.
audience that's thinking about getting into acting or wants to do it because it'll help them out in their profession, please make sure that you contact Ann at the end of the contact information and sign up for a class. You will be surprised and you will not regret it. So we're going to start with a showcase today, and this showcase is going to be of the actors in the class, and I hope that you sit back and enjoy it and have some fun. So we'll start with that showcase right now.